Pontificia Universidad Católica de Valparaíso. The objective of this class is to practice English as a second language and learn about experiences in the incorporation of global skills within university studies. If you want to know more how to promote an international curriculum in a local setting, or maybe you want to know how to face internationalization after the current context, well, this is the class for you. Don't be shy. We want to meet you. We want to share with you and talk about internationalization of curriculum. So please, if you have any question, please raise your virtual hand and you will be allowed to talk and exchange with our English instructors. If you want to share your comments or ideas, please put your comments below in the chat box and we will answer. This class will be taught by Dr. Shazia Nawaz Awan from the College of Continuing Education of Dalhousie University and will be moderated by Molly Dennen, curriculum developer and language instructor of the Department of Geographical Engineering of the University of Santiago. So after this small introduction, please, Molly, I leave the audience with you.
Thank you, Christian. I'm going to share my screen for everyone. I hope everyone can see the screen. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Molly Dennen, and I will be the moderator for this talk on Generation Z and internationalization of curriculum post-COVID-19. This is the second part of a discussion on this topic of how internationalization intersects specifically with Generation Z. Today, we will build on the framework established by Dr. Shazia Awan in October of last year, and we will discuss what the future will look like on the other side of this global pandemic. With that said, I would like to take a moment to thank you for joining us this afternoon. We are in trying times, and we appreciate all of you taking the time to learn with us about the future of international education. So thank you. To begin, I'd like to ask you all a few simple questions. If you do not want or cannot participate in this poll, there's no worries, it's just for fun, but we ask that you start to think about these questions to yourself. For those of you who are participating in the poll, grab your tablet, your cell phone, whatever you have handy. We're going to be using the website called Mentimeter. You can find the link below in the chat box. I'll give everyone a minute to connect. So our first question, I can see that people are already answering. What is the country that you have traveled to? We have lots of different answers. Argentina, Canada, Ireland, France. Mexico, England. Excellent. A variety of answers. Our second question. What are some types of music or food that you like from another country or culture? Pizza. Me too. Sushi, pasta, tacos. Pad Thai, fajitas, all good answers, and I agree with them all. Our third question, do you have a friend from another country? And where are they from? Excellent. Lots of different answers again. I'm sure some of these people are here in Chile and some of them are all over the world. Awesome. Next question. What is another language you speak other than Spanish?
Yes, I think we have a problem with the link. So let me check it for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should go to the next, maybe, because there's a problem. Oh, that one, yeah. Your mic is off.
Sorry about that. Let's try the last one. Have you ever participated in an online class from an international institution? Lots of yeses and lots of nos. Excellent. Thank you all for your responses. We hope that they serve as a point of reflection for you throughout this program. And we also hope that answering these questions helps misspell a common misconception about internationalization, that it has to happen far away from where you are. In actuality, it's something that happens in our own backyard every day. And we hope this program shows you some of the ways in which we can participate in this sort of education. Now, I'm going to take a few minutes to define a few key concepts. Then Dr. Awan will give her presentation, which will last about 20 minutes. And we will finish this program today with time for questions from the audience. We ask that if you have questions during the presentation, to please write them in the Q&A box found at the bottom of your screen. Some of you may be quite familiar with some of the terms and some of the ideas that we're going to discuss today. And others of you might be asking exactly what is international education? Why does it matter? What happens now after this global pandemic? And the idea of today is to start to answer some of those questions for you. The internationalization of curriculum or internationalization of education is definitely not a new concept. It's been around for quite some time, but it's a hard definition to pin down because it has taken on so many different meanings over the past few decades. For time's sake, we're going to use a simple definition from Professor Betty Leeks that says, internationalization of curriculum is the incorporation of an international and intercultural dimension into the preparation, delivery, and outcomes in a program of study. So some popular trends that many of us have seen for the internationalization of curriculum is student mobility, research programs, international partnerships, English language initiatives, branch campuses, online courses, and of course, the inclusion of international and intercultural perspectives in the teaching and learning process. That leads us to intercultural education, which is focused more on human interaction. It's about bringing people together to bridge the gap between differences in religion, cultures, gender, languages, opinions, and perspectives. The main objectives of intercultural education is to enhance the efficiency of intercultural relations, to increase tolerance and acceptance and openness towards those of us who are different from one another, and to train people to make them more perceptive, more accepting, and more respectful of diversity. A major tool of this type of education is known as cultural competence. Cultural competence is a set of skills that enables us to understand, appreciate, and interact with people from different cultural belief systems from our own. To better understand this concept, we can break it down. Culture refers to the patterns of human behavior that include language, thoughts, traditions, values, beliefs, etc. The list goes on. And it also, we have to take into account society's institutions of race, gender, ethnicity, religion, and so on. Competence is the capacity to function effectively as an individual or as an organization within the context of cultural beliefs, behaviors, when meeting the needs of a community. So what does culturally competent education look like? It's about centering students' culture and students' identity in all aspects of the educational process. So most people, when we talk about internationalization of education or curriculum, they think of student mobility. We think about students or professors or researchers moving within and around countries into different institutions for a certain amount of time. There are many different types of mobility. We can think of study abroad programs, bilateral exchanges. There are often international students who are degree seeking in other countries, and research initiatives. When thinking about mobility, it's important to remember all of the social, political, economic, linguistic, psychological, and cultural barriers that must be overcome for students to be mobile. So, how is all of this relevant in Chile? In a 2019 NAFSA report, it was concluded that in Chile, in comparison to other like countries, it ranks quite low in terms of initiatives supporting the internationalization of education. As of last year, the Chilean government did not have any declared strategy regarding the internationalization of education. And given this global pandemic, along with civil unrest in the country, it is unlikely that we will have any sort of declared strategy in the next coming years. However, as Chile moves closer to having a service-based knowledge economy, the need for domestic universities to act as drivers for these initiatives will increase, and we'll also see an increase in international faculty cooperation and many more outbound students from Chile into the world. I think we'd also like to see this as a positive point in that in Chile, we have lots of potential and lots of room to grow. So now that we have an understanding of these key concepts, the question is, how are all of these important, complex moving parts going to be affected by this global pandemic of COVID-19, and what does it have to do with Generation Z? So to answer these questions, I have the honor of presenting or introducing today's presenter, Dr. Shazia Awan. Dr. Shazia Wan is a higher education practitioner at Dalhousie University in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. She has extensive experience of teaching internationally in the Middle East and in Canada. In her current role, she is a teacher and education instructor, curriculum developer, and a program coordinator at the College of Continuing Education at Dalhousie University. She completed her doctorate in education from the University of Exeter in the United Kingdom. Her research and professional interests are in teacher education, intercultural understanding in education, international teaching context, content and language integrated learning, and culturally responsive, equitable, and inclusive pedagogy. She calls the University of Santiago, Chile, her second academic workplace and enjoys being in Chile whenever she gets the chance to visit from Canada for research, work, or fun. Shazia, I hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Molly, for such a nice preamble and also for such a nice introduction. So hello, hola to everyone who has joined. And I was looking at Molly's poll and there are more than 127 people. One thing that I would like to say at the very beginning is that I am extremely thrilled to be back in Chile, although virtually, but I am almost equally happy that I am with you guys. So let's start. As Molly said, that I will talk about you. So I will be focusing the next 20 minutes on you as a student of the future and as a student living through these times while you are trying to balance your education, all the environment, and also who you are. So we're going to have a little bit of fun about that. Let me share my screen. And bear with me if it takes just a tiny bit of time, because I have to click a couple of things to get to where I want to. All right, I am going to share. Okay, this is 2, this is 1. I think I'm sharing the right screen that I want to. Yes. So as you can see, this first slide, so I'm very thankful for Consortium 2030 for inviting me to talk to all of you, to talk to all of the future enthusiasts in higher education, and to all the universities who have put this event together. So thank you very much to all those who I know and they're listening and they're excited about the event, and to all of those who I don't know, but they're going to know me a little bit. So here's the topic, and that's the topic that you saw on the pamphlet when you registered for this session. So Generation Z, Internationalization of Curriculum, that Molly shed a light a little bit, and then we're going to talk about post-COVID-19, because there is so much uncertainty to what is happening that you want those answers and you deserve those answers. And as an academic in higher education, I would try my best to give you those answers so that you have some takeaways after this session. Okay, so before we start, I want to do a little experiment as a researcher and as a social scientist. I just want to see who you are. So I'm going to show you 3 images, and then I'm going to try and share the link to a form. Gabriella, I would be very thankful after I have shown the images that you could share the link with the participants in the chat box so that they can interact with it. So who you are as a student. So here's the thing, that when we think of internationalization, as Molly said, we think of mobility, we think of moving to another country probably, or a city, or maybe someone moving in where you are. So we have the traveler, the one who likes to travel, leave home. And then there is another type of students. We say they are the interpersonal. They learn from each other. They like to chat, they like to be in face-to-face conversations, and they like to be physically in the same place. And that could come from traveling or being where you are. And then this, the techie, who has the cell phone and all the digital devices to his or her disposal, and they think that they are connected. They don't need to travel, and probably they don't even need to leave home. I mean, think about the experience that you've been having since the word went on a lockdown. Okay, so Gabby, at this point, I'm going to request you to share the link to the form, and then I will share my I will unshare this screen, but I will share the form, and in real time, we'll see how you are responding. So here's the question. Are you a traveler, an interpersonal, or a techie? I just want to know. Okay. So that'll be a little bit of dance because I have my form here, and now I'm going to share the form just so that everybody sees it. Okay, so we have the form, and I'm hoping that you have the link in your chat box. I'm just trying to make sure. Gabriela, were we able to share the link with everyone? Okay, I'm gonna open the chat and see. All right.
We have shared the link, but we can't access to the form actually.
Oh,
I think it's blocked.
Is it? Oh, okay. Is it because it's Microsoft and that's why? Oh,
yeah.
I'm so sorry. Okay, let's then use the chat box and let's see how many of you are travelers, how many of you are interpersonals, and the techies. Let's try. Okay, so we have an interpersonal. I'm kind of a mix of both. That's a very politically correct answer. A lot of you are interpersonals, and that is what I was looking for. Interpersonal, lots of interpersonal. There are some techies as well, a few travelers too. Okay, so we have a lot of interpersonal. It looks like if I had a poll just like Molly had, I would have interpersonal probably as most of you are identifying as interpersonal. Okay, thank you very much for your responses. I am going to share my screen with you, the other screen, which is my presentation. And please bear with me just for a tiny second. And there you go. All right. So a lot of you are this. Isn't that a good news that a lot of you are interpersonals, and we can make the best use of this quality and this trait that you have? Okay, keep that in mind. So now you have the definition of internationalization that Molly shared with you. And now you know a little bit about yourself as well, that as this student who I am, and how I learn in terms of intercultural and international knowledge. All right. Okay, so a little bit about myself as well before I go back and put the spotlight on you. So where I'm from here. I saw some of you wrote Canada when Molly asked the question about which countries in the world you've been to. So those of you who've been to Canada, you know that it's a huge country, and I am here in this tiny, tiny province of Nova Scotia. And this is my university, Dalhousie University, where I come from. So right now, I am going to kind of just go by this introduction and this reference so that it's easier for you to remember when you are thinking about it, even this session after you finish. Okay, so as a teacher and as a teacher in education, I am a discourse analyst too. So what happens is that I think that I rather believe that words have stories to tell. When you read words, or when you, as you were typing, so when you were saying interpersonal, it's not just one word, it's actually a whole part of your personality that you were talking about when you were sharing that information. So let's switch our gears back to internationalization a little bit and think about the common words that we usually think of associating with the experience of being an international student or about internationalization. So we think about mobility. If you remember the word, that's what Molly used. And then we think about borders because we are looking for student permits and we're looking to go into countries. But then in this time of COVID, we are and as students you are, I should rather say, you're facing these restrictions and limitations where some of you may have already got into universities, but now the universities are telling you that you can't travel because of this new scenario that we are faced with. So as you can see, the kind of the paradox that we talk about mobility, but then mobility is being restricted by these limitations. Another set of words that comes with international experience is multicultural, intercultural, but also multilingual and plurilingual. So in her poll, Molly had a question about how many languages do you speak? And I know we couldn't get it on Mentimeter, but I was going through some of the responses in the chat box and I saw there are lots of you who speak English, there was French as well, and there were other languages too. Language, speaking a different language is also an experience of being an international student. And when you move to another country or you connect with another university or academic institution, you're not learning the language, you're also giving the other students experience of the language that you speak. And then this, diversity, which is the experience of being in a multicultural environment, that there is cultural diversity, there is linguistic diversity, but above all, there's ideological diversity, because we all come with different perspectives, we all come with different ideas, and they all have a place in the world that we live in that currently looks like it's restricted and limited by this hopefully temporary situation, but it has opened up new opportunities as well. So that's what we will talk about. But before that, let's focus on the topic that is at hand. So I am showing you a few letters, B, X, Y, and Z. What do you think these words are? Quickly, just for like 30 seconds, type your answers in your chat box, and I'm going to see if I can open the chat box and also see what you are saying. All right, somehow it looks like I have lost my chat box, but okay, can't see the answers. Oops.
So everyone was saying generations.
Oh, generations. Okay, so they got it. Thank you, Christian. Thank you for saving me, because I'm like, I have two screens, but I can't see. So you'll have to help me out if I call them out later on as well. So thank you very much. Good answer. Good answer. Bravo. So these are the generations. Now let's get a little bit of what they are. So B is actually, they're the baby boomers from, they were born between 1944 and 1964. Probably some of you have parents or even grandparents from that time, from that generation. And then generation X, they were born between 1965 and 1979. You may have probably older siblings or parents from this generation. But then here are the two generations that we are faced with in this time, and they're millennials, and they were born between 1980 and 1994. So those of you who met Christian Diaz in the beginning, doesn't this avatar look like him? I'm going to keep this because I think it does look like him. All right, and Generation Z, so they were born between 1995 and 2015. So this is what we are talking about. I added millennials here because I didn't want to exclude a whole group. Probably some of you were born before 1995. And so I did not want to exclude you from the conversation that we are about to have. So that's why I included it. But the Generation Z is young people who were actually born after 1995. You will see in some research 1996 as well. All right, so it's very important that when you are taking decisions about your life, about your education, and about your future, and trying to find your place in the world, how much do you know about yourself? So it's not that I am going to tell you who you are. I am just going to share a research that was done for visual capitalists, but it was done for the new workforce. So think about, you're going to the university, you want to get education and you want to get professional education, but for most of you probably, I'm assuming the end goal is to go into the workforce, and probably a workforce that's more diverse and more internationalized. So let's meet you. And according to this research, 95% of Generation Zers own a smartphone, 98%. So imagine as teachers and as a teacher teaching a Generation Z student, I have to be very aware of the fact that they grew up in a time where all the information is accessible to them and they own the information. It's not that we gave them the information, it's just they were born at a time when they have all this information. So 98% have a smartphone. And as I can see, all of you are participating, which means you have some kind of devices that you're here with us today. 92% have a digital footprint. So when we say digital footprint, think about the Wi-Fi connection that you have when you are on the train, when you are away from your friends, and how you are connected. So I have been working with USACH since 2018, and I have had been very fortunate to have met a lot of you, and I was at USACH as well. So I see this was like a really good experience, that I would get off the train and walk towards the university, to the Department of Engineering, Faculty of Engineering, and I would see all these people. They are hooked with their cell phones, but they are still connected with each other. So they will be talking, but constantly they are there on their phones. And that is creating the digital footprint that helps you be a global citizen as well. So that's a power that is in your hands. And then this was alarming as a mom, though, that 50% of you are connected 10 hours a day online in some way. So as you can see, this is all about connection and communication. So we're thinking about the idea of mobility, but we're also thinking about the idea of connection and what you have, how you can use to translate it to still accomplish what you could have accomplished by traveling to another place, or by physically being in another place. All right, a little bit about digital activity and connectivity, how you are connected to each other. About 70%, according to the same research, spend 2 hours a day on YouTube. And the other thing is, these two things are connected to each other, that you are addicted to your phones. And I'm not using addiction with a negative connotation, but it's that it's part of you. And if you don't have your phone on you, and I think some of you might already be smiling when I'm saying that, you feel like a part of me is missing. So I have a Generation Zer at home, and I have seen him go to the washroom with his phone, and he plays music and he stays connected. He actually talks to his phone, because there are now apps and applications and everything that you can give prompts to your phone to do certain things. And the emotional connection with the devices as well. So 80%, which is very high, keeping in mind that you are connected so much. So by showing you this, what I meant to accomplish was that you have this power of connectivity in your hands. It's up to you how you use it to achieve those objectives that you have set for yourself from education point of view. Let's move on to the next point, because there is some interesting research about you, which is that despite the fact that you're connected with your devices, 72%, so when I say you, I'm constantly talking to you. So 72% of you like to stay connected, yet prefer face-to-face conversations. So you are, as I was talking to you about my experience at USACH in the morning and during breaks and, you know, at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock coming back home, that you're walking with your devices in your hands, yet you are looking at each other, you're emotionally connected, you're physically connected, and that's what you prefer. And probably that is why this time when you are quarantined in your homes, probably this is what you miss the most, that are you able to have those face-to-face conversation, although I know that there are things which you can use on your cell phones to have that conversation. Now, this is important, and that is connected with your education. That 60% of you want jobs that have a social impact. So I'm directly talking to those students who are studying geographical engineering and environmental engineering, or even if they are studying chemical engineering, they're thinking about what is the social impact of the things that I will be doing in the future and how I can leave a positive impact. Because according to the research, millennials and Gen Zs are the most aware generations about their surroundings and about themselves. And then this, that 77% of Gen Zs expect to work harder than previous generations. So as an adult, I'm not going to tell you what generation I'm from, but I believe that when I personally believe that if a notion comes out about young people do not work as harder as we did, and by we, I mean my generation, I do not believe that, because I think that your work ethics have not been explored by administrations and educational institutions the way they could. If you were given a chance, I am sure that you would perform the way this research is actually telling us. All right, so I hope that you're happy to meet yourself, that you feel that power in you, that you're much more than just someone who was born in the last 22, 23 years, but you're someone with more power, with more knowledge, and with more access to the rest of the world and to kind of the research and other things that are available. But you need support, and that support comes from universities, that support comes from academic institutions, your professors, faculties, the way the classrooms are held, and so on. Let's talk about that. So this is about the social impact. When I was in USACH in October, so I did the talk that I gave. It was also focused on what is your sustainable development goal? So if you are thinking about, if you are one of those 60% who are aware of social impact and they want to work in a situation that leaves good social impact. So think about adopting a sustainable development goal. And I have a friend in the audience who would love this talk because this is kind of his forte. But anyways, please adopt a sustainable development goal and see how it's connected to your education and how it's connected to your future. And this, I would encourage you to do this. When you see this picture, Christian, I'm going to ask you to keep an eye on the chat box again. Can you give a title to this image? Give a title to this image, please. What do you think this image tells you? When you get the answers, Christian, just yell them out to me.
Yes. Overthinking, introspective.
Introspective, okay.
Self-knowledge.
Self-knowledge, oh, I like that, okay. What else?
Or evaluation, inside my mind, very deep.
Inside my mind, I like this, because
Think
yes.
to think, self-reflection, dreams, meta-thinking.
Yes. So,
reasoning. What to do next?
Reasoning. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. They're all wonderful responses. Wonderful responses. When I look at this image, what I think is that the thinking is thinking about thinking. So it's introspective behavior that someone of you were talking about. So it's metacognition. So what it is that it's think about thinking. Think what you think. Think about what you want. So I found this image and I really liked it. And that, of course, came from a young person as well, that how they think. So it's eat, sleep, sustainable development goal, eat, sleep, and repeat. So the sustainable development goal comes first, then eat, then sleep, and then repeat. And probably this is their quarantine mantra. And within this, you can see that there is a lot that is happening. And then they repeat it all. So, and it's also about recycling, no pun intended. So what I want you to do as after this session is, what do I want? What am I thinking about? Not what I'm not getting, but what is it that point A, and what is the point B that I want to get to? So please do that, because this introspective metacognitive behavior would make you connect with yourself and with your thinking. So that was a little advice, pep talk from me. All right. So let's talk about the other part of the talk, which is about internationalization of the curriculum. So Molly did mention about, what is internationalization. She also mentioned actually Betty Leask's definition about that. If we look at the keywords in the definition, here are the keywords that I think are related to you. When you go to the classroom, is it virtual? It doesn't matter if it's virtual or face-to-face, or you are in a project-based learning. Does your curriculum engage you? Does it make you happy? How? That whatever you are studying, you are internationally informed, using internationally informed research, and there is this cultural and linguistic diversity within the curriculum that is being taught to you, and also of the ideas. It doesn't have to be completely in another language. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the idea of this diverse curriculum that connects you with the global world, because when you become professionals, you're not going to be just regional, national professionals, but you are going to be global professionals and global citizens. So if as adults we are promising you that, then we have to give it to you as well. Now, this came from a research in 2015, that what are the global competencies? How do we make these students global citizens, global professionals? What are the competencies that are needed, especially when the students are at the university level? So I really like this idea that it's that introspection that tells you, what power do I have? What can I do? And it's not only for me, but it's also for the environment. It's also for that social impact that you have talked about. And it's also about research and thinking about ideas outside the box. So the idea is that you recognize perspective, that you have this eye where you know, okay, here's where my knowledge is, that I know I can understand, but I can also make other people understand. So you know who you are. So it's very important that the starting point is who you are, beyond someone who speaks Spanish, someone who is originally from Chile or from some other place. Those are just superficial identity traits. You need to find out who you are as a global citizen, as the citizen of the internationalized academic world. And then the next point is that you're ready to investigate. You're ready to go in the research. You're ready to go in a project-based learning. You're ready to go in a task-based learning. You're ready to test the waters that might be very challenging for you. Here, I would like to give an example of a fluid mechanics engineering professor that I have worked with. And he is currently teaching a class at USACH in completely using English as a medium of instruction. However, he has created the space of bi and multilingualism as well, which gives students a new confidence to be in that class and to try out a few things that they may not have before. So investigating the word. And then this is my favorite. and I think Christian will agree with me, take action. You cannot just not take action and wait for others to tell you what to do. But you are able to, when you recognize something and when you are investigating, that you're able to translate these ideas into appropriate actions. If you are working in the classroom on something, or if you have an idea, how can then you transform that idea into an action? And then this, you can communicate ideas, just like you are communicating with me today through chat, through speaking, or you're communicating using your mobile devices, or you're taking an online course and you're communicating your ideas. So you are part of that bigger community of education and higher education that's out there in the world, and it doesn't matter that it's been it has been limited by this disease. We still have options and opportunities. Okay, now if you are someone who is actually going to take action and transform those ideas into action, then ask for it. So reach out and ask for it, because it's your right and it's your prerogative. So for example, what is it that you can ask for of your institutions, of your professors, of probably the International Relations Office, of administrations, and sometimes even talking to friends? The curriculum that you're studying, is an internationalized curriculum? Does it have research from all over the world? Does it connect you with someone? And the other thing is there an exchange with an international university? Is there an opportunity for you to be connected with another student somewhere else, or another student vice versa? So on both ways. And then what is the relationship of the course that you're studying to the international courses? So for example, Google, look up, find the universities that are teaching similar courses. How is their curriculum different from yours? And then can you convince your professor to look at that as well? And then diversity of ideas. Look around in your classroom. There are people with really, really good ideas. Are you open to accepting those ideas and work on them, or work with them to transform those ideas into action? And then this, that your global future, the way your courses are designed. So ask for a question. After completing this course, what am I going to achieve? How is it going to help me? And how is it going to help the environment or the community? All these questions are good questions. And if you ask them, I am sure, if I'm not certain, that you would be able to get some of those responses and answers. And good luck with that. All right, so we're talking about global learning. As you can see, this pandemic has put a little bit of stop to this global learning. But here's what global learning is. So according to the definition, it says that it's a critical analysis, but complex, interdependent global systems and legacies. We cannot live in isolations. We are living with other departments, other universities, even this consortium. There are 3 universities who are connecting together and collaborating. I hope I'm correct. Christian, are there 3 universities? Did I say it right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
3 faculties of engineering.
Yes, so 3 faculties of engineering. So there's already a complex interdependent system. How can we make it global? How can we include more faculties of engineering into this mix and see how that benefits you and how that benefits the earth, the environment, and the social impact that we talked about? So here's the thing, that initially we thought about student mobility, but we need to rethink about mobility and global education. We need to think about, can I have global education while I don't have to move? And that is the new thing. So yes, we can. So the link, this pandemic has broken the link between student mobility and global education, because now it's the connection of pedagogy. So you're not encountering people, you're not on other campuses, but you are on virtually other campuses, and you are virtually encountering the new pedagogy and new thoughts and new thinking through the same thing that probably you would have had you traveled. And probably this opens up opportunity to those who were unable to travel before all this happened. So I am coming towards the end of my talk, and I hope that I didn't take long, because as a teacher, two things: I like to talk and I like to talk to students. So I am going to ask for forgiveness for Gabby and for Christian if I went over time. However, I am from Dalhousie University, and we are currently 100% online. It was not an easy task. That we love to have international students at the university. We love to connect with them. We have had students from Chile, from all over Chile, in our English in Canada programs. And just this past fall, I was teaching one of the class with my other colleagues, and I loved meeting them and listening to them and sharing my ideas with them, but also hearing what they bring to the table in terms of that diversity of ideas that I've been talking about. So I have provided the link to Gabriela and Christian Diaz, and they will share it with you. If you have any questions, our contact information is there. And the English in Canada program, that's for students and professionals. And there are some professional programs as well, some university courses that you can take. So please have a look at those courses, contact us, and we would be happy to answer any question that you would have. Let's see what kind of avenues are opened up to you once you start clicking on those links. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions, but what I'm going to do is I will just say thank you, unshare my screen, and give it back to Christian and Molly, so that if there is a question answer time, then we can take questions. So thank you very much. Gracias. And ciao just for now, but I am going to talk to you. So thank you. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you, Shazia, for such a fascinating and insightful presentation. I think you were able to add a lot of insight to Generation Z that a lot of us had never really heard before. And we're all thankful for these action items that you gave us during this global pandemic. And like Shazia mentioned, we would now like to open up to take a few questions from the audience. I see our first question from an audience member named Alvaro. He wants to ask what we think is the value in having something like a study abroad or an exchange program on your resume or CV. You're muted.
Like always. So yes, this is a very good question. If you are thinking about resume, when you have diversity of experience and education, you're actually making it strong. So if you, the research that I shared with you about future professionals, it is about variety, and it's also about progression in a way that in your generation, people like to move from place to place to get different experiences. So this is the time that it will make it strong. Probably when you go into a grant funding, it's going to give it a little bit more credibility, and that goes for everyone. So for example, if a Canadian student studies in Chile, it's going to give a boost to their resume as well. So it will definitely make it strong, because it will also bring an element of linguistic strength, and also ideas and perspectives, what kind of things that you can share. So the new visions that you will bring with you, either back home or when you are there. Of course, that is going to, and I'm speaking from my personal experience because I did most of my education from the UK, and then now I am in Canada teaching, and I did a few things in Canada in terms of training and professional development. So I feel that all that has brought me to this point that I've been, able to talk to you. So for sure.
Thank you. Another question that we have is from the audience member named Pamela. And she asks, how long do you think it will take for companies and future employers to recognize the value in international experiences that are virtual?
That's a very current question. I think it will not take long. I was just reading the other day how the attitudes towards, and it started with a joke actually, that they were talking about the University of Phoenix, which is completely a virtual university, and the degrees were not valued in the way. But because the established universities are making sure that the standard of knowledge and other standards are not compromised, so I think that they will know this 2020 is a new dynamic. So I don't think it should take long. I think that they would understand that you are the students who graduated virtually. You're the students who studied fall virtually. We don't know what's going to happen in winter, but I think it will bring a new dynamic that you are now virtually literate as well. So your mode of communication has changed. So I cannot put a timeline, but I think that you are going to be part of that generation that takes the benefit from this virtual learning environment.
Thank you. We have another question from Felipe. He asks, how can you enhance or promote internationalization at home with a point of view directed towards higher education?
So this is very important. Internationalization at home means that your campuses are internationalized in a way that the experiences that are connected only with mobility, they are now happening on campus. And that starts from the curriculum, the way the curriculum is designed, that it integrates research that is international, that there is an aspect of another language probably, and then there are opportunities for you to work in multiple ways. So the universal design of learning actually comes into play, which is that there are multiple ways of representation, there are multiple ways of understanding, but there are also multiple ways of assessing the information as well. So at home, the most of the responsibility falls on the universities to design curriculum in a way that it has those aspects in assessments, in pedagogy, which is classroom teaching, and it also on campus, that the other activities that go on daily basis or during the term are internationalized. And then look at your professors as well. How much are they internationalized? Who are they working with internationally? And how do they bring that knowledge to the classroom for you as well? And I'm sure that this trend is going to be, now with the situation much more easier. And if there was a little bit of hesitation from universities, I think the resources are being developed so internationalization at home can be promoted.
Excellent. We have another question from Sarah Lee. She asks, what are your thoughts on virtual exchange opportunities until the world opens back up?
If you ask me, like right now, we are a part of that experience. that we are virtually yet internationally exchanging ideas. And for virtual exchange for students, I'm completely and utterly for it, that universities should make it a point. I know for a fact that Professor René Garrido from the University of Santiago in Chile, he's already working on exchange programs where other students are working with the students that he is teaching. So I think that this is something that the International Relations Office, and if there is something, I met a student at USACH, and I'm just going to give you a little story. So she was not from engineering, but from another faculty. When she heard of me, she came and she talked to me and she said, she wants to be in a virtual exchange because she doesn't want to travel right now. She wants to finish her studies, what she should do. And I asked her, I just advised her that if she's comfortable, she should start looking up the universities that she's interested in, the courses that she's interested in, looking at the professors, their bios, and then talking to people. Start that chat yourself. And then when this little bit of foundation work has already been done, if you're a graduate student specifically, then you can bring in your professors into play. So yeah, so I really like the idea. I even like the idea post-COVID that the virtual exchanges keep happening. So we have less carbon footprint as well.
That's great advice. I'm actually going to build on that too. And say that one of the things that you mentioned for Gen Z is kind of this idea of extreme connectivity. And while we are in this global pandemic, it's a crazy time, but a lot of us are at home, connected to our computers and our phones all day long. And with just a simple search, there are so many universities globally that are, hosting talks like this, offering free courses. There's just a myriad of resources out there. And like you said, it's a great time to start thinking about what are the skills that the world is going to need after this pandemic, and start building, and especially continuing moving forward, not just during this pandemic. I hope we have more time for questions. Hopefully Christian will let us know.
I don't know. Christian will let us know. He's the master of ceremonies, I think.
Yeah, I think we have time for 3 more questions.
Excellent.
And then I'm sure that, Shazia, we're able to share your presentation with the audience, I mean by email.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yes.
Because I kept updating it until the last moment. So definitely I will share it with you, and then you can share it with your audience for sure.
Thank you.
No worries.
We have another question from Catalina. She is wondering what physical student mobility is going to look like on the other side of this pandemic. When can we start thinking about students moving again, and what is that going to look like?
First of all, Catalina, I really love your name. That sounds really, really awesome. So thank you for the question as well. So the physical mobility. I think these are the policy decisions in terms of when that will happen. So for example, speaking from the point of view of Dalhousie University, the university is not offering a lot of courses face-to-face in the fall. So most of the courses are going to be online. However, the universities are hoping to reopen the doors from winter 2021. Now, apart from policy, I would also, just like Molly said, I would like you to think about what is the purpose for the physical mobility. Do you want to go for a term, for a year, or you can keep working virtually and then a time would come when you would like to travel. So it's also what the purposes are and what is the life on the other side when people have got used to doing things so differently that now, they'll think how we want to do it. However, as I said, Gen Zs like that personal connection. So one advice that I would give to you, Catalina, is please don't stop. Keep working on it. Keep staying, stay connected virtually now in the hopes that you will be able to move physically either in the winter term or in the summer term. And I'm speaking from winter and summer from Canadian point of view. But yeah, so let's see, we all are keeping our fingers crossed, but there are lots of things that are important and we need to explore the opportunities of this online world as well, right?
Absolutely. We have a great question from Felipe del Rio. He asks, what are the baby steps that we can take to change local thinking about global thinking? Great question.
Very good question and very tricky as well. What are the baby steps that we can adopt or take to change local thinking to impact global thinking? Excellent. I am going to tear a page from my friend Renee's book, and that is start from someone who knows how to do it, but from the classroom. So working with the community. So look at your curriculum and look for the opportunities of how you can work with community. It could be a student group initially. And if it is successful, you can actually propose it to your professor and probably ask for grant funding and then move from there. So the first baby step would be identify. Identify where the need is the most. Is it the environment? Is it helping someone do something? Is it with some kind of technical issue that is going to be more impactful? So look towards your community first, because your immediate community needs your attention the most. When you have identified that issue, then probably look global and see, is this issue also a global issue? And then try to find those connections. And from those connections, you will analyze, design, develop, evaluate. Go back, identify, analyze, develop, and design, and then, evaluate. So yeah. So identifying what is it that your community needs, and use the tools that you have. You have your cell phones with you, and we've been using these survey tools, talking to people, thinking about how academia can actually help health, environment, bring social change, all those things that we are all passionate about to create and to leave a better world for our next generations.
Excellent. So we're going to take our last question. I apologize to all of those who sent in questions that we didn't get to. There's a lot of really amazing questions here. So those of you who participated, you will receive an evaluation after this program. And we definitely encourage you all to kind of continue this conversation so we can address a lot of these issues in future talks. But this last question is for the teachers and educators. What kind of abilities must teachers have when trying to enhance curriculum internationalization?
The first thing that comes to my mind is, having worked with faculty, open-mindedness. Be open to change. That it's not about what probably we're doing and is not so internationalized is wrong, but it's different. And probably in most cases, the students that we're teaching, their needs are different as well. So for teachers to identify the needs of their students and then thinking about, do I need to reevaluate my curriculum and make it more engaging and interesting for students? Look at the methodology that I'm using in the classroom. Am I achieving the objectives that are not only lesson objectives, university objectives, my objectives, but they're also my students' objectives? So the teachers who can look at their students and their objectives they look for innovative ways, and they're the ones, and those who have a trust in your abilities as well. So it's very important that as teachers, we look towards ourselves. That's a very, very good question. That there are people who want us to teach them, but then, and by us, I'm addressing my teaching community, that as teachers have we be ready to face those students and the challenges that they are going to face in the future, which are going to be very different from the challenges that we had. So yeah.
Something I'd like to add on to that is this notion of centering student identities and context and cultures when we're teaching. That's something that in my teaching experience has been absolutely key to kind of reaching different students on different levels. So unfortunately, our time has come to an end. Thank you, Dr. Awan, so much for your presentation and your time this afternoon. I just want to take one quick minute to wrap up and kind of give some action items. We want everyone to feel like they're walking away with something.
Definitely. Thank you, Molly.
Of course. So as you all walk away from this program today, we do want you to take something with you. We want to remind you that we are currently in uncharted territory, which means that this is an opportunity for reinvention, innovation. Ask yourself, what will be the new skills needed in the world after this global pandemic, and how can I prepare myself now? As Dr. Awan mentioned, Generation Z is the most connected generations of students that we've ever seen. Even those of us who aren't Generation Z, we have so many resources, online classes, intercultural training programs at our fingertips. We encourage you all to use them. COVID-19 does not stop us from being global learners because we no longer have to cross a border to learn. And finally, as Dr. Awan mentioned, take charge. Those of you who are students, if you are not sure what initiatives your school is taking to internationalize the curriculum, ask, look for those resources. And if you're not seeing the efforts in your curriculum, ask. Like Dr. Awan mentioned, it's your right, it's your duty to ask for what you deserve. So thank you so much, everyone, for your participation this afternoon. That's all for us. I'm going to pass it now back over to Christian.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Molly. Thank you, Shazia, for everything, for the open class, and also thank you to all the public for participating actively in this open class that was made actually especially for you, because we know that as universities and international offices, the importance of virtual communication is the key to survive the current context. So if you want to know more about the 3 faculties of engineering or more about our universities, please send us an email and we will get back to you with all the information you want to know. If you are a national student, an international student, or even a former student, you can count on us for everything you want. We will send you this presentation and we will be more than happy to collaborate with you in this class or in another experience. So stay connected and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye. So, Molly, Shazia, could you please put your camera on for a photo?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so.
Where are you?
Yes.
You should be in the photo too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Give me a second.
And Gabby and Camilla.
Yes, and everyone.
Yeah, let's have them. That'll be a fun photo.
I'm reading the chat box and everyone is saying thank you to you both. So I just want
Thank you. I really enjoyed it, Christian.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you to
Yeah,
everyone
thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you, Molly. So we
Thank
wanted to collaborate and eventually we were able to.
Exactly. It's tough times. We have to do what we can.
Yes. So, okay, so 1, 2, 3. All right, so final words to this, all right, so see you next time.
Thank
See you
you.
next time. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Done?